Hello, this is Mike Walt with LM3 again. In this video, I'm going to go over LabelImg with the added tools of auto label and upload, which were added by LM3 Technologies. So let's take a look at the images we're going to label. Do so by selecting either open a single image or open a directory. Open directory is usually easiest because it'll list all the images that you have in the actual directory. I'm going to select this folder. You'll notice that I have circles, triangles, stars, squares, and pluses. So what I want to do to start is to set up my predefined labels. So I can do that by going into the location of the program, the LabelImg, and into the data folder where there's a file called predefined classes. Notice that if I open that up, I've already entered circle, triangle, star, square, and plus. You can list as many predefined labels as you want here and save it at this location. I'm going to close that and go over some just general parts of the program. So you have a set of tools on the left here. Open a single image, open an entire directory. You'll notice I did the entire directory, and these are all the images I have in that directory. Change the save directory. I'm going to make it the same directory as the images, which is perfectly fine. I can go to the next image, I can go to the previous image, I can verify the image. If I have made changes, I can save the image. And you can ignore the Pascal VOC, it's for different types of labeling. And then I can create a rectangular box, which is the label of the object within the image. And then down at the bottom there's some zoom tools. There's also the ability to duplicate rectangles as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangle box. I can do that either by clicking this tool, or I can do it by pressing the W on my keyboard. So I'll do it using the mouse. And what you do is you just draw the box around the objects that you plan to detect, and then a pop-up comes up asking you how to label that box. So that's obviously a circle. So I hit the W. I'm going to do a triangle, star, square, and plus. See the list over here on the right? You can kind of toggle between them and it'll show you what everything is labeled. Notice that I did not label any of these blocks over on the left side of the image because they're all bad, defective blocks. So I just don't label them at all. Alright, so now I got the ability to save, so I'm going to go ahead and save. And then up in the menu bar, I'm going to use LM3's tools to auto-label the rest of the images in that folder. So when I press auto-label, it'll copy all of these labels over to all other images within the folder that I selected, the Open Directory folder. So now if I go on to the next one, you can see that the system labeled these blocks. I can, at that point, center them a little bit. I can stretch them by pulling on the corners. And then I can save. Notice in the view menu selection you have an autosave mode. I usually turn that on because it allows me to get through the images quicker. So now if I go on to the next image, either by selecting it from the file list over at the right or just pressing next image, my label's already in place. I can make some fine adjustments. Hit next. That'll automatically save since I've selected it in view. It's checked. Now, if the objects that you're trying to detect are in the exact same location, for example, you have a molding machine in which you're presenting parts to the camera in the same location every time, you most likely don't need to do this review process. You can just auto-generate the labels and upload them to the training system. These blocks are moving around a little bit, so some slight adjustments are necessary, and it's a lot easier to adjust these boxes than to draw them in from scratch. So adjust. Just centering things as I go along here. Almost done. Let's make sure we get this triangle within the box. This one moved pretty significantly, so they're all going to need to move a little bit. That's the last one. I'm just going to save that. Now if I click back through these, you'll notice that the boxes follow the objects. Going back to the very original one. As mentioned, there's some other tools. You can highlight the boxes and you can edit the labels if something's labeled wrong. You can duplicate the box. It gets laid right over the other one. And you can delete the box. And save, of course. When you're finally ready and you have all of your images labeled, the last thing that you'll want to do is use the Upload Labels tool to send the images to LM3 Technologies for training, at which time LM3 will train the model and return it to you for deployment on your inspection machine. So that concludes this video for now. See you next time. Okay, now that I've shown you how LabelImg works, I want to briefly go over how to organize the images in order to use the auto label feature. So looking at a set of images of blocks, in just a general view, I'll go to extra large icons, I can see that I have a set of images that are all fairly similar, and I'll be able to use the auto labeling tool on them. And then I have some images that are at different angles, and therefore the placement of the label boxes is going to be different. This holds true for a set of images which contain all good objects, and then a set of images which contain some good and some bad objects. The idea here is to segregate off the images so that you can label one image and then copy the labels across the rest of them. So this may involve creating multiple folders. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this blocks 1. And I'll create one that's called blocks 2. And let's just make one more that's called blocks 3. So I'm going to copy all the images that are very similar to each other to start. I'm actually going to move. Go ahead and move those into blocks 1. And these ones all seem very similar as well. So I'm going to move these into blocks 2. And these ones are fairly similar as well. So you get the picture. You want to just segregate off your images so that similar images, whether it be the placement of these blocks, positioning of these blocks in the field of view, or a set of pictures that contain both good and bad objects, you want to separate them off so that if they're all good, you place, and in the same location relative to the field of view, you place all of them in one folder. And then if you have, say, 1 of 4 of the objects you're trying to detect that are bad, you place those in a folder that's called 1 of 4 bad, and 2 of 4 bad, and etc. So that the images are segregated off to make auto-labeling easier. So now if I navigate to Blocks 1 folder that I just created and segregated the images off, I can then go ahead and label. Oh, that one's labeled wrong, so let's relabel it. So now we got plus, square, star, triangle, circle, save, auto label, and now the labels are placed in every single one of the images. So that concludes the tutorial on auto labeling.